Hey there, Zach Elliott at Feel Free to Argue. Haven't been communicating much, and sort of to, I guess, get back in the swing of things, I just wrote out what I'm going to tell you today. I kind of wanted to be precise anyway, since feelings are strong the day after the election, and kind of wanted to not ramble as much as I was rambling when I tried to just kind of do it off the cuff, so here goes. So, what the fuck just happened? Already, there are people working to figure out what went wrong, what it means, how the political landscape will change. Stocks are up. It seems business is happy. Definitely money well spent this election cycle. Did you know this midterm election is on course to be more expensive than the record-setting presidential election we just went through? What? You haven't heard that reported anywhere? I wonder if it is because the only people who can tell you that this is bad and might, be harmful to democracy and stuff are the prime beneficiaries of the current system. Luckily, we have such a debased notion of conflict of interest that this is unworthy of mention. Boehner says we need to change course. Well, he controls one half of the legislative branch, so I guess he gets to make all the rules now. He teared up a little at the end of his acceptance speech. I guess he must really care about all those poor people he's about to stomp on. As long as they're not Mexicans. Ilario's 60 rounds Pantano won. Nothing proves what a badass you are like shooting a couple of unarmed men and then shooting them some more after they're totally dead. I mean, Pantano wasted a whole extra clip of bullets on the guys after they were dead. That is so hardcore. His opponent, acknowledging the total badassness of the deed, did not make it a campaign issue. He clearly understood that the most important thing about being a Democrat is knowing when you're beat. Meanwhile, Rand Paul's opponent insisted on dragging him into the mainstream, generating sympathy for Paul by bringing up college pranks instead of his positions. Thought Aqua Buddha was going to be a bigger winner than poking holes in Paul's leaky libertarianism. Oh well. Hey, but Piglet won. Nice to know we'll have Harry Reid back. No one knows how to apologize for Democratic failure like Harry Reid. More mild-mannered deal-making, because, that works so well with Republicans. Meanwhile, despite leaks establishing that the military gleefully lied to us throughout the Iraq War about torture and a whole host of other things, and that our Afghanistan policy is clearly failing, all U.S. military fiascos were off the table for the midterm elections. We just do not care about the thousands who continue to kill and die for nothing. Nor do we care about the trillions we continue to waste keeping our forces in fighting trim, protecting the interests which globalism in general and our energy policy in particular foist on us. Because of the people who profit from the existing stupidity, the same people who own both parties, even more so now after Citizens United. Russ Feingold, the face of campaign finance reform, is gone. Even yesterday, the Wall Street Journal was already crowing about his expected exit and the brave new day it heralded. The campaign finance reform movement is dead. Over. There will be no more interfering with industry's mass market assault on our democracy. Rove barely broke a sweat getting a donor network together that destroyed the Democratic Party. Imagine what he'll accomplish in 2012 when he'll actually be trying. By the way, in an amusing side note, the very banks who would have been nationalized but for Obama turned around in the midterms and exclusively funded the people who are going to spend the next 2 years doing nothing but calling experts to testify about his birth certificate. That's what playing ball gets you. Curb service. So, are you glad you listened to Geithner and Summers and took care of the banks so they could be strong enough now to kick your ass? Carried water for them, took crap for them, watered down reform for them, and then they boned you. Maybe the next time you have power, you can wield it to make changes, instead of giving the power away and then asking for it back. Too bad you're never going to have power again, so this lesson isn't going to do you any good. You see, when Republicans have control, and sometimes even when they don't, they actually try out their ideas. they go for the whole enchilada. They make you make them settle for less. You have to fight to keep them from getting exactly what they want. They massively increase defense spending or give deep tax cuts. They try to cut whole agencies out of the government. In other words, they go for it and actually try to do it. They don't care what the Democrats want or if it might offend them. Seriously, they do not even give a fraction of a fuck about that. Regardless of what he ran on, and I'll grant you that Obama has gotten a decent amount of his decidedly mild agenda done, he has wasted a historic opportunity. With his big majority, he could have played hardball with the Republicans, ran roughshod over them, and made some of the serious change it sounded like he was interested in when he was running. The serious change that the people who voted him in thought they were voting for. Instead, he either didn't want real change or thought he could get something out of Republicans by compromising with them. Whether he was a disingenuous corporatist or just a naive deal maker, the result is the same. He got to the end of 2 years with too little to show for it, and his party suffered. I'm not surprised that people were not excited by Democrats, especially the mostly corporate-friendly blue dogs who lost in droves. The blue dog kennel is almost empty after last night. I am surprised at what people thought was the answer: tax cuts and a balanced budget. Really. Tax cuts and a balanced budget. Boehner says they're going to try something that's never been tried before. Except, of course, right before the Great Depression. So we're going to try to balance the budget with an effective unemployment rate of 20% while prosecuting one full war and several policing actions and keeping the Bush tax cuts. No wonder none of the brave Republican or Tea Party candidates wanted to talk about what, exactly, they were going to cut to achieve their chicken in every pot. It sounds like the same kind of economic fairy dust that led to record deficits under Reagan and all those other fiscally responsible Republicans. The fact is that our bender is not even close to being over. Like Charlie Sheen, we've held on to our show long after it's obvious that we're out of control. We plug our ears and hum, not caring about the people who fall farther and farther into poverty all around us. Either that, or we're so busy dealing with it that we can't be bothered with a government so full of people who are not talking to us, who so very clearly only care about the people rich enough to command their attention. The fact is, everything will continue to be monetized and privatized. You will get the justice you can afford, the speech you can afford, the health care you can afford. And if you can't afford anything, you better get some friends and fast, because that quaint 20th century conception of the nanny state you have is definitely endangered. Yesterday, the party that hates the government a lot beat the party that hates government somewhat less. Both parties are committed to war without end and saving Wall Street at all costs, though Democrats are a bit ashamed of this. Vote Democrat if you feel guilty about poor people but don't really want anything to change. We've decided that we want our insurance carriers to be free to drop us when we get a serious disease or find out that we had a pre-existing condition, and that all others can then refuse to cover us. Apparently, this is the only escape from the death panels. We've elected to continue to support criminal gangs in the prison industrial complex through our drug policy, even though a recent study shows legal alcohol is far more dangerous on many levels than illegal marijuana, and even more dangerous on balance than heroin. We've decided that global warming is not happening. My senator thinks it's caused by sunspots. Of course, he also thinks church pedophiles need protection, so his judgment is hardly perfect. Apparently, there's a lot of imperfect judgment out there. But more than that, there is a completely broken process. One that obscures issues instead of illuminating them, that rewards flash over substance, empty claims over integrity. It is a system that is on a collision course with reality. And thanks to this election, it's now heading towards that collision at roughly twice the speed. Maybe this is a good thing. If bottoming out is the only way we can start getting better, then bring it. Let's fuck this shit up and find the bottom, and hope that us and the world survives. It's been Zach Elliott. You can certainly feel free to argue.